So today's question is, what do you do when there's a lack of trust in another department's knowledge of leadership? I'm going to come at this from a couple of different perspectives. One of them is, yes, department to department. But the other one is individual from one department to the individual to another department. You and I are not that different. You've been in organizations where you had a question about someone and their behavior, maybe even in their motives, in a different department of yours, a different department than where you worked, and you are not sure that what they were doing was, one, in the best interest of the company, two, in the best interest of their department and our department working together. I believe that's the heart of this question. And so we're really looking at it from the team standpoint and also the individual standpoint. Individuals make up teams. And so I think it's really important to break it down into both of those things. And really the first thing we want to look at from the person to person perspective. Does this person who you think may not understand the management's position or the leadership's position or vision on what we're trying to do, and there's this lack of trust? Like, it feels like there's one person on the other department always trying to one up someone in my department, or maybe someone on the other team is trying to undermine my authority, or really trying to make sure their team wins the pizza party or whatever the prize is. And the thing we've got to really ask, one, are we team members or not? Not even teammates. Are we team members? Are we part of the same team? Yes or no? And if we work in the same place, the answer to that is yes. So then what we've got to do, the next level, is how do we become teammates? Part of what we do here at Conn Coaching and Consulting is we partner with organizations to move team members to becoming teammates. And one of the ways that we do that really is to focus on these four different areas, four different topics that we're going to talk about today. And so my question for you as we get rolling, my question for you is, does this person that you have this issue with, do they have a history of sabotaging you? Do they have a history of being part of the team or not part of the team? Are they part of the solution or part of the problem? Andy Stanley has a great quote: disagreement is inevitable, but division is a choice. And I think that's one of the things that we've got to use to frame this in this conversation. Is the person that I have an issue with, do they have a history of being divisive or not? Because if not, it could be just a simple miscommunication. It could just be something that has a couple of ripples in our locker room, in our culture of the organization. It could absolutely be something that could just be solved by a clarification. I wouldn't say an email or a text, but a clarification face-to-face conversation. Really what you've got to do is you've got to determine where there's a gap between what I expected and what I experienced. What am I going to put in the gap? Trust or suspicion? That's really what we're talking about. It all boils down to trust versus suspicion. And when you look at that from the communication standpoint, okay, are we leading people with our communication to be more trusting or be suspicious of what we say? And I think the way that we break that down, we break every organization down into three different categories. Live, which is you doing the job you're paid to do. The locker room, which is the way we treat each other all the time. And then the lab, which is where we go to get coaching and feedback and training. And then from there, we break down communication into internal communication and external communication. This question is entirely focused around internal communication. So one of the first things that we want to do is, first we want to get the two parties together, and they don't have to come to the same room, but we got to hear from both of them. Hey, do you believe that this person, hey Mike, do you believe that Joe really is trying to sow some division? He really is trying to cause some problems here. Now I've got to choose. Am I going to put trust versus suspicion in the gap? And the answer is it depends. The goal for the organization is we want to be able to put trust every time, not suspicion. And so what happens when we hear one person talking about another person? That's gossip. So immediately gossip has to stop. We got to stop gossip in its tracks. Period, paragraph, end of sentence. No tapering off, no slow fade on the volume. No. It's a complete full stop, because gossip in the locker room is toxic. Gossip in the organization is toxic. Gossip between one individual versus another individual, toxic. It's like rocks and ripples. You throw a rock in the water, the first thing that happens is it's a splash. Then the rock sinks like a rock. And then on top of the water, you get all these different ripples. And the ripples are the effects of the problem. But the trouble with the ripples, not one of us can say, this is how far the ripple goes and then make it stop. Once you let go of the rock, once you say the thing, once you do the action, you're setting everything in motion. And so when there is a lack of trust from one person to another, or one organization, one department to another department, or one team to another team, we've got to really be on top of that and look at what we can control. The first part of it is the communication piece. The second thing we want to do is look and see, is there a possible miscommunication? And if there is possible miscommunication, the best way to improve your communication, no matter how great it is right now, is be clear and be consistent. Be clear and be consistent. Be clear and be consistent. This is not new information. You already know this, yes, but knowing and doing are not the same. So that's the first thing that we want to do. And we're not trying to point the finger at people and make them feel like their communication was bad. We're trying to fix the problem, because it's likely a process problem. And when we fix the problem with the process, we're ensuring we don't have the same issue to deal with over and over and over again. And there's a huge culture piece to this. Everything we're talking about so far has really been focused on the locker room. And the reason why is because this great quote by Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if you, as an organizational leader, allow toxic behavior to occur and then continue happening with no ramifications, then you're saying essentially, yeah, that's fine. Even though it's against our mission statement, our core values, it's not wrong enough for me to address. It's not wrong enough for me to do something about. And that is just going to breed more of that toxic behavior. So you've got to fight for the culture that you want to have. Fight for the culture that you say you want to have in your mission statement, your core values, your vision, all that sort of thing. Fight for this culture that drew these rock star team members to be part of your team in the first place. But when we look at something like an issue with trust from one person to another, or one department to another, and we just let it continue to go, we're causing all this problem. We're allowing it to go. The next key topic we try to talk about is execution and teamwork. And one of the fundamental truths in every organization, and you will always find three things in every organization: friction, confusion, and underperformance. And so what we want to do is we want to eliminate the friction by putting the spotlight on communication, having it be as clear as possible. The confusion we can control. We can't eliminate completely confusion in the workplace, but we can go a long ways to eradicating it or to ending it by just simply being super crystal clear with our communication. Now, underperformance is a little bit gray area, because that depends on your definition of underperformance and your definition of underperformance and my definition of underperformance. So now we're all the way back to communication and setting right expectations. This really does all fall together and dovetail really, really well together. Without great communication, you're not going to have great execution and teamwork. Without a great culture, you're not going to have great teamwork. You're going to have people trying to one-up each other, or really even trying to set other departments and other people up to fail, instead of really trying to leverage our strengths to become some of our greatest assets. When you drill down further into leadership and supervision, then that really, we're looking at this from a middle management and up perspective. And what you've got to do is you've got to fight for alignment, not agreement. The goal of any organization is not agreement. Does it happen? Man, yes. And when it does, hey, that is great. But the goal is alignment. And my job as a leader in any capacity, whether I'm a middle manager, which means I have to meet the expectations that are put on me, and then also manage the expectations of the team around me, anywhere from there up. If anyone reports to you and you report to someone else, your job and my job, very, very similar. We've got to become vision casters. We've got to equip the vision carriers. And the vision carriers are everyone who is part of your team. Everyone who badges into our place of employment, to our work, to our headquarters, to our nonprofit, to our church. Everyone who badges in wherever you work, we're all team members, hopefully becoming teammates, and we're all vision carriers. So it's my job as a team lead or department lead or any sort of management. It's my job to set right expectations. It's my job to equip the vision carriers by casting the vision. And that's not tricky. It sounds maybe a little bit complicated. Should we have some procedures for it? I mean, it's really just as basic as reminding people of what we do and why we do it. Hey, this is what we do. This is why we do it. Hey, this is what we do. This is who we serve. This is why we serve them. This is what we do. This is why we do it. There's even a song that goes with it. Like Montel made it big time. I mean, you can just hear it right now. I'm not trying to get copyrighted. Like, you can for sure hear that right now. But one of the jobs as a leader is to equip the vision carriers with the vision. So I've got to be a vision caster. I can't just let it go. I can't just let it continue to happen. And one of the best ways that I found to be able to do that is, from a leadership standpoint, a really good question is, who are you for? The better question is, who knows that you're for them? So you want to fight for alignment with your organization? You ask the question, who knows that you're for them? Because when people know that you're for them, then when you bring some correction to them, then they don't anticipate you're just trying to keep them down, or you're trying to stop them from getting a promotion, or stop them from moving up because you've got a buddy or a relative that you're going to try to move into that position. It's one of the best ways that you can do that, to help people know that you're for them and cast the vision of what we do and why we do it. What is the problem we solve? Why is this our mission? Here at Conn Coaching and Consulting, our vision is simple. We don't want to just see people. We want to help people feel seen and feel valued in all the best ways, online and off. So many different ways we can do that. When I, as the organization leader, when I put that in front of our team, then it doesn't mean they'll never see anything else. I'm not asking you to put blinders on them, but when you continually bring that in front of your team, it's such a good way to remind them of the why. They already know the what, and the what might be because, hey, I got payday coming up. The what might be because I got a job. I'm going to come in and punch this clock. I'm going to do my time, and then I'm going to leave and do whatever I got to do next. Hey, that's not inherently a bad thing. But what we have to do as vision casters, as managers, as leaders, is we can't just point and say do. We've got to point to the policies and procedures and say, hey, this is what we do. And then remind them of the why. This is why we do it. And then ask the question, hey, how can I help you? What do you need? Do you need anything? That's such a great question for leaders to ask. Supervision and leadership, one of the best ways you can do that is to listen with your eyes. And then when people tell you what they need, believe them. Don't assume they're trying to wear you down so they can come take your job. Listen, and I don't think that's the spirit of the question, but the answer to the heart of the question is, when I don't trust someone else's intentions, what do I do with that? And that's where we've got to choose to get better. Our fourth topic we talk about all the time, personal development and growth. And this is it's something we're really, really passionate around here. For us individually, that's why we read a lot, we listen to podcasts, we watch lots of YouTube videos. We're constantly receiving content and trying to learn from it. And at the same time, not just let it go in one side and out the other, right? Like, let it come in and then ask the question, how can I apply this? The goal is, I always want to be learning and I'm growing. And the truth is, when you develop this as a mantra, or you adopt this as a mantra, I'm learning and I'm growing, then the things that you don't know, that it's not reasonable for you to already have known it, then you don't feel guilty about it. Then you're not justifying the decisions that you made or the choices that you made based on what you think someone else thinks you should already know. When we develop this and build this into our culture, we cultivate, control what we can control, this culture, the way we do what we do and the way we allow it to be done. When we cultivate this culture of learning and development and growth, personal development and growth, then you're giving everyone an opportunity to say, hey, I don't know that yet. That doesn't mean I'm not going to learn it. I'm for sure trying to learn. Hey, listen, I'm not just your coworker, I'm a teammate. I'm rolling up my sleeves, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to find out what I need to know. When we set the expectation for personal development and growth with an idea of learning and growing, I'm learning and I'm growing, that's when the culture is going to get better. Listen, 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, our organization is going to be different based on the new people that I meet and the way I spend my time. The way I read books, the way I listen to content, the way you consume the content definitely has a shape on the person that you're becoming. So what I want to do is I want to cultivate this culture where people know, hey, listen, it's not only expected, but encouraged for you to learn something new that's going to help us in our organization, that's going to help us try to achieve the mission. And I think it's that same idea that if you'll take it all the way back to the beginning of this question, what do I do when I don't trust that someone in another department fully understands the leadership? Maybe it's because the leadership hasn't cast the vision enough. Well, who says when enough is enough? I mean, we say it with our understanding, right? So maybe it's not even about that other person. Maybe it's about an organizational issue. Maybe it's a system issue that we need to try to solve. But on just the wrong day, I'll get just the wrong attitude and I'll say just the wrong thing. And then I'll cause avoidable conflict because I don't understand why someone did what they did or said what they said. And I think you've really got to protect that. We really have to protect that in our organizations, because that is truly what keeps our locker room from becoming toxic. And that really is one of the best parts about removing the blind spots from leaders. It's whenever you can go through this process, and whenever there's an issue, because there will be an issue, then the question is, well, what did you expect? Okay, what did you experience? Now what are you going to put in the gap? Well, there's a gap between what you expected and what you experienced. You need to put trust or suspicion in the gap. And then you go through the line. Okay, was the communication clear? Yes or no? Okay, was my communication clear about the unclear communication or the level of unclarity? I mean, I don't know, but that's all part of the process. That's part of our system. And when we are really trying to leverage this question or this problem and then see how can we make it part of our solution? How can we make this a superpower? So just a problem, move it to a superpower. That's when we'll find what we're looking for. And yes, we got to roll up our sleeves and we got to dig down. But the fundamental truth of this is organizations move at the speed of trust. And to the extent there is not trust that lives in person to person or team to team, department to department, then we're really halting however far we can go with the organization.